the interactions that you're going to have with each other. So use that chat box, stick around for the Q&A and for the networking, but I will just share a little bit now, and then we'll pass it on to some others as well. So I work with WEC International. I served in the Middle East for about 10 years. Learned a little bit of Arabic along the way, got to hang out with people like this, and as I was out there, I saw that their lives were being changed in a major way. They weren't setting up their tents where they could find water anymore. They had started setting up their tents where they could get cell phone reception. So we started trying to find ways that we could share Jesus through that. And we were able to start getting different media on the phones, getting it out to them, and saw that that could work elsewhere in the world. So we ended up back here in the US and set up Mobile Advance. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. And then just in the last year, we've been able to get involved with refugee outreach by helping teams that were in some of the countries, and then as well producing micro SD cards and sending a few thousand of them out to Europe and Turkey and such like that. So the nice little side deal that we've got happening in our lives right now as well is that there is a Syrian family that's being resettled right in our area, and we've been able to get in on that and to have a part in being able to translate and help them to settle in. So I've got a little personal work going on there as well. I think Clyde and Benjamin, you might want to mute as well during this. Just I'm hearing a little bit of keyboard and stuff. So one of the questions we need to be able to answer is, who are these people? Where are they coming from? That's going to help us to know how to serve them. If we look at the EU and we look at where people are coming from as they go to the EU, we see that the Middle East is the main source. Syria and Iraq together well over half the total. Afghanistan, from my understanding, is about 20%, about 1/5 of the refugees. And then you can see some of the other higher numbers there in that list. And the question is, where are they now? And I don't say where are they going, because oftentimes they're not where they want to be going. They're actually stuck somewhere in between. So we do know that a lot of them, they've left war, they've left the destruction of their homes, the deaths of family members. And although some might want to say they're just going for economic reasons, they're trying to find a better life for their children. That's my experience with the Syrians I've interacted with, that they are trying to find a better life and a safe life for their family. So they're going to Europe, and a large number are settling and requesting asylum in Germany. Sweden, per capita, is the largest recipient of refugees in Europe. Hungary, it gets some bad press, as was mentioned earlier, but by the size of that circle, it looks like they've done, ended up with quite a number of the refugees settling there. I want to say, if you look back here, Greece doesn't look like it has a very large circle, a very large number of people there, but that betrays the fact that there's over 50,000 migrants that are stranded in Greece, that the border's been shut on them, they're not able to move on. And so considering that, and considering the large number of refugees that are arriving every day by boat in that country, that's certainly one of the countries you want to be thinking about as you're thinking about, who am I going to reach out to? Where are they? Things like that. All right, so that's the Europe side. But let's take a look at the bigger picture. And if we look on this, which shows which countries are hosting the most refugees per their own number of inhabitants, Sweden is the only country that even begins to show up on that chart. If you look at that giant mass of gray that's taking up most of the left side of the screen, that's Lebanon, where nearly a quarter of their population, or maybe a fifth of their population now, is actually refugees. So they, if you think about the infrastructure, education, sewage, all that, the demands that are being placed on Lebanon right now by these refugees is enormous. So you could not walk down a street in Beirut or anywhere else in Lebanon without running across quite a number of refugees. Jordan is similar, but it's a fair bit lower. And Turkey has the highest number of Syrian refugees right now. So the total number of registered Syrian refugees in the countries surrounding Syria, it's about 4.3 million. But look at the estimate. Not everybody's registering. There's a lot of illegal immigrants. They're not wanting to be in the camps. They're wanting to be able to work, things like that. So we're looking at well over 6 million Syrian refugees in these countries. And so, yes, Europe is getting a lot of press, and Europe has gotten a lot of refugees, about 1.2 million refugees last year. But just in these 4 countries, or 5 countries around Syria, you've got 5 times that number of refugees. So let's not forget about the ones who are closer into the where the war is. One of the reasons we're talking about media and ministry to refugees is because we have a different type of refugee now in this decade than we did in previous decades. It's the connected refugee. The New York Times would say that the 21st century migrants' essentials are food, shelter, and their smartphone. And they're not saying that because that's what they've come up with. It's because what the people themselves are saying. This is actually a secular organization that gives out mobile phones and calling cards to refugees. And the quote at the bottom is from one of the people that they've worked with. Our phones and power banks are more important for our journey than anything, even more important than food. So if you take the bag refugees is bringing with them as they come into Europe, and you ask them to show what's in it, as they did with this guy Iqbal from Afghanistan, what is it you're going to find? Well, yeah, brush, toothpaste, but it looks to me like he's possibly got a power bank there, like an extra battery, and he has not one but 2 different cell phones. One might die out, and before he can charge it, he'll at least have the backup there to be able to stay connected, because Maslow's hierarchy of needs was made well before the cell phone, but it seems like the ability to be connected should have been on there at some higher level. It seems to be one of the most desired things in people's lives. When they get off the boat, what's the first thing they do, even as the boat's deflating behind them? They take out the one possession that is more important to them than anything else. And I think you guys can figure out what is in that balloon up there and what's been wrapped in all those layers of cellophane. They do everything they can to keep that one most precious possession ready, so that when they get to the shore, they can take a selfie, they can call back to Syria and let them know that they've survived, call back to Iran, Afghanistan. And then one of them has a map showing what the appropriate route is. So they all take a picture of that. And on the Facebook page again, one more time, who knows what happened during their journey across? Perhaps the police have started patrolling that one area. And so you get on Facebook and you figure out, well, which way should I go now? So this is the connected refugee that we're reaching out to. So we're reaching out to them with the love of Christ. And what are different ways that the media can help us as we're trying to help in this refugee crisis? And one important role, I believe, is to be calling the church back to a more biblical viewpoint on the refugee crisis. And I think often we're living out of a fear-based narrative of the refugee crisis and not enough of a faith-based one. So I really want to recommend this talk to you. I got to hear him present it in only 13 minutes, and I've searched the internet high and low to find that presentation, and I can't. But, boy, if you want to just be blessed and really blessed, it's not just a challenge about refugees, it's being brought back to some deep biblical truths about life in general and the sovereignty of God. I really highly recommend this talk to you. And it'll if you can take bits and pieces of that and bring that into the lives of other Christians around you, if you can forward that on to others, I think we're going to be in a better place, because we're hearing voices right now, and too often it's not the voice of the Bible. So the conference where I got to hear that was the GC2 or GC squared conference in Chicago last December. And the GC squared would be the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. And I have to be honest with you that being involved with a mission whose tagline is reaching people, planting churches, and being involved even more particularly in media work that's all about messaging, the Great Commission oftentimes has really been the predominant part of my life and work in missions. So I would say that conference really challenged me about the primacy as well of the Great Commandment. I mean, it is the first and greatest commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And, you know, I think people can fall on either side of the equation. We can stress one of those GCs and forget the other. But it's really when those two are brought together that really the fullness that God wants is going to be able to be expressed to people around us. So it's been a good challenge to me as I've gotten more involved with this, and I'm trying to do more reading and do more living of the Great Commandment. So I hope that if you've been on one side and not so much on the other, you'll be challenged for the other side. And yeah, for all of you perfect people out there, then we're good to go. So one of the things that piqued my interest in what God was doing with this, I mean, we can look out there, and this is, again, the part of the biblical basis, you know, is ISIS in control of this, or is God in control of this? Yeah, it's a horrible situation, but I'm going to put my money on God being sovereign in it. And so this was an article that was put out in June of 2010, and it was looking at the 30 groups that were not largest ones that were known not to be engaged by any mission group or anyone in the world with a long-term church planning strategy and commitment. And if you look down there at number 9, the Arabs of northern Syria, they're Sunni Arabs of northern Syria in particular. And these are the very same people who now, in the numbers of hundreds of thousands, approximately 500,000, are arriving literally at the doorsteps of churches throughout Europe. So God, I believe, did not want and does not want that any should perish, but that all should be saved. And he is using this disaster to bring, I'm going to believe, thousands, tens of thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of these who were the least reached, least engaged people on the face of the planet just 6 years ago to himself. We get to see pictures like this man. You can see some joy on that face because he is getting baptized. He has come to know the love of an Abba Father and the fellowship of the Son and the Holy Spirit, and he's getting baptized into that. And this is happening. The numbers I'm hearing from Greece alone, it's something like 15 Iranians or Afghans are getting baptized every single week just in Greece alone. So we are living in exciting times. They're on one side horrendous times, but on one side they're beautiful times that God is bringing people to himself through.
5 minutes, Keith.
Say that again?
5 minutes.
Okay. Wow. That went quick. But yeah, so we're looking at countries where the church is being revitalized and new members are being brought in. So just if you want to be able to pass that on, World Relief has its Leaders Toolkit. This will again be in that follow-up email. We'll have things like that for people to help their churches and congregations reach out to the Syrians. As was mentioned at this, Patrick Johnstone's written a book, Serving God in a Migrant Crisis. Excellent resource. Highly recommend it to you. You know, we all live out the story that we believe, and so we want to help people to hear a new story and a different story about the refugee crisis, just like I've been trying to share with you. So if we believe the Trump story that this is a great Trojan horse for ISIS, we're going to live out that story. We're going to live out of that fear. Perhaps there's other stories that we could live out. And so there are particular people who, like Humans of New York website, who are taking, they've gone to Greece, they've gone to different places, and they've interviewed these Syrian Americans and refugees, and they've brought their stories. We have a chance where we can humanize these people instead of demonize them. Hamza is another beautiful story. The Secretary of Homeland Security has gone on and made this video to show all the different steps that are needed for a refugee to come into this country. Perhaps we can be sharing things like this with people to help humanize and bring a little, less fear-based thinking into this situation. Your mission has developed a number of refugee stories. They've interviewed a number of the refugees, and that's out there for you to be able to use and to share with people, because we want them to realize these are people who have suffered a lot, and they're like you and me. What I want to know is who's going to tell the stories that show that the blessings that church members experience and the relationships that are formed as they reach out to their community. I think it's stories like that that will inspire other church members to say, okay, I have my misgivings. I'm not sure I'm able to do this, but I'm going to walk beyond it. I'm going to get involved. Love to see those stories out there. Will you be the one to do that? The media can also call the church to prayer. There's a group, the Syrian Circle. They're putting out daily postings of prayer updates and things like that. Excellent resource to get prayer for these people. They have overwhelming needs. Let's pray for them. We have the ability, media, to educate the church on how to reach out. A couple resources I might recommend. If you haven't worked with Muslims in the past, or if you don't know some of the cultural snafus that you might face, try these DVD-based resources. They'll help you move forward in that. And then we can equip the church to respond. I have the blessing of working with the European Evangelical Alliance, and they've put together an excellent website full of resources. So again, if you're just getting started in this refugee thing, or even if you've been doing it for a while, this is a great source of information. They have resources in all these different areas. And all I've been able to have is putting together this listing of media outreach resources. So these are specifically evangelistic and discipleship oriented. I've put a bit.ly link to that, and I'd love any of you that are interested to go through that. And if you see anything that's missing, or anything that you might change, it's available for you to put comments in it. So please do that, and I will do my best to make this as good a resource as possible for the church with a capital C. Just a couple of the resources that are available. PWR's put together this refugee bridge that's going to meet emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs. There's a C2C story app that it's the creation to Christ kind of story that leads people from Adam and Eve all the way up to Christ. And it's available with an Arabic audio narration that goes straight through.
1 minute.
Okay. The executive summary from last month's short-term mission thing is an excellent source. If you just got on because you're wondering, how our short-term team is going to Europe this summer, what do we do? Check this out, I would say. But of course, there's I was hungry and you give me something to eat. We want to be the people who did this, and media can help us in that. So ways that media is helping people along, like Facebook pages, but unfortunately most of those are put on by the smugglers. But on the other hand, there's the Syrians themselves who, through this refugee, made an app that's available. You can recommend that to a refugee you might know. There's all kinds of things that are being done to welcome people to Europe. Perhaps you can recommend one of these to people, or you can find one yourself, or there's Christian ones that you can recommend. This particular initiative in Budapest gives instructions on how to make your own Wi-Fi mobile charging stations, and it gives the signage as well that you would need to help people in Arabic and Farsi. It even shows you it's there for the Syrian refugees to find missing loved ones. Perhaps we could join in on that, or make something of our own. Lots of different ways to help people settle in. This is going to be starting in Texas. It'll give people their own mobile phones with particular apps that will help them to integrate into the culture here. a lot of mapping initiatives going on, showing people where to find resources and services. This one's for Berlin in particular, but there's one or two cities out there, but perhaps if you're working in a particular city, you could consider finding others and do a kind of hackathon where you could create an app that would help people find services and perhaps even Christian services that would be of assistance. I should probably end here just for time's sake. This is amazing. You've heard of Airbnb for getting housing when you're on vacation. How about an Airbnb for hosting refugees? Your people want to be part of what's going on with refugee outreach? Well, how about if they opened one of their rooms through this refugee welcome site and welcomed in a refugee or a refugee family to stay with them for a period of time? So there's lots of different resources out there. I can't go through them all. Star is on a virtual high school for refugees. You could get in touch with them. Serve Ed, where SAT7 is looking at education needs in the Kurdish region of Iraq. There's a report that I've got a link to down there that you could access. Even trying to get together the Syrian professors with the Syrian university students so that the university students can actually finally finish out their education after 5 years of war. Lots of great stuff. Want to learn Arabic? Netakellem. It's a website where they're using the refugees. You pay $15 an hour, which is an outstanding rate to get one-on-one tutoring for Arabic studies, and you get to develop a relationship with the refugee in the process. Awesome. Upwardly Global, perhaps you know people who can employ refugees. Get part of this and find ways that you can bring refugees in. Refugees hackathons, that's in the secular world. I'm going to recommend Indigitus in the Christian world as a potential place where you can see other developers and coders and stuff come together to help tackle some of the issues that refugees are facing. I'm going to go ahead and move it on now to Lisa, who is joining us from Germany, where she works with Campus Crusade for Christ there. And she is also the lead for the Jesus.net Love Europe apps development there in Germany. So Lisa, can we unmute?
Yeah, make sure you unmute, and I'm going to start your time button. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, hi everyone. I'll tell you a little more about the Love Europe app. It was developed in the Netherlands and launched there this April. And we as the German team are providing the content for the German version. The goal of this app is to help refugees find what they need most. So could we go to the next slide? Because that shows how we do that. So there is a bilingual display. The idea is that the user can choose his or her native tongue plus the language of the country that he or she is staying in. So this makes it the information, but to simultaneously learn important words in the new language. Then the next is country information. So when you download the app, you have to choose which country's map you want to download. Currently, there's only Germany and the Netherlands, but Greece and France are already preparing the content for their respective countries. And then you'll be able to find general information with regard to the country, like population, language, sports, food, religion, as well as do's and don'ts and important values of that culture. The heart of the app are the points of interest. So these could be anything from the train station to a charity shop, town hall, whatever. And these are entered by volunteers. And the great thing about those points of interest is that you can navigate to them without an internet connection. You just have to switch on the GPS of your phone, and all the information is stored on the phone, so it can direct you to your destination. And users can use a filter in order to look for certain POIs. And as you can see on this slide, this screenshot, all those different POIs that are in your closest vicinity will pop up, and you can just see what is available for you. Then the next slide, there's a sort of dictionary with useful words and phrases. The two languages that you choose in the beginning are also the languages that this dictionary will use. And as you can see, this is organized in different categories like basic conversation, food, and so on. So it's really easy to find the word that you're looking for. Then the next one is the media and events. They're not yet available. So the screenshot you see here is basically in the app. And on the bottom you see media and events. They still have a lock because they're not yet available. But once they are, refugees will be able to find different kinds of videos in the media section that contain information on the country, holidays, values, laws, all those kind of things. And in the event section, what we really want is that neighborhood initiatives or church initiatives enter their events for refugees. So for example, if they organize a cafe where people meet, drink coffee, get to know each other, learn the language, get to know the culture, then this is the place where they can enter their event. Then Christianity, well, the app does not contain content that is explicitly Christian, meaning that the gospel is within the app. There's just some basic information in the country information section saying that, for example, the values that we have nowadays come from our Christian roots in Germany. And then there's a link to a website with further information on the Christian faith, and it contains the Jesus film so that people can get more information if they want to.
1 minute.
And we also want to put the Jesus film in the media section and have videos explaining topics like Easter or Christmas. And then for more information, we have a website which is basically designed for volunteers. It's in English and German, and it contains more information on how the app works, what our goal is, how to contact us, and how to get involved. We also have a Facebook page where we post things in different languages, looking for volunteers to enter those POIs, because that's really the heart of the app. And the app can already be downloaded via Google Play Store or the iTunes Store. And that's about it.
Great job. Keith, can you introduce our next presenter?
Yes, our next presenter is David Bone with Crew and their Global Technology Office here in the U.S. So I'm going to go ahead and try to advance this slide.
You're on, David.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world right now, or maybe even evening. And my name is Dave, and I serve with Crew, also known as Campus Crusade for Christ. And if you just stay on the first slide, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that first. What we're seeking to do is really, as a ministry, is always reach people where they're at. And in terms of the refugee crisis is happening in Europe right now and in the Middle East, you know, we want to basically bring the content to people. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the Wi-Fi content box. Over the last year, partner organizations as well as ourselves have been working on a way to basically get information to people who may or may not have mobile data. You know, through our research and through most of you guys would be able to attest to this, you know, almost everyone has this. But sometimes a refugee may not have mobile data or mobile data that they're willing to spare. And so how will you be able to get content to them? Well, the Wi-Fi content box allows that. Literally, for about a little over $30, we can make these Wi-Fi content boxes that can safely send a Wi-Fi signal that can be picked up by any mobile phone that's been made in the last 4 years. And all the data that we would put on it is just on a little USB nub like this. And so since this is USB 3.0, we can probably go up to 1 terabyte. You know, right now we're running 64 gig cards in here, but there's no reason why we couldn't go more than that. And because of that vast amount of data storage ability, we can put the Jesus film on there. We can put any videos we want. We can put Bible translations. We can put audio. We can put books. The sky's the limit. You know, one of the partners that we're going to be working with is Love Europe and figuring out, you know, putting Love Europe on this. So if a refugee lands somewhere, they don't have to use their mobile data to download the Love Europe app. It can already be right on here. And one of the great things about this is it just uses the person's browser. And so once they've connected to the box, they just go to their web browser on their mobile phone and open it up. And then immediately it opens up to the front page of the Wi-Fi content box. And we can skin those in many different ways. If you look at the sample We have a sample version right here on the slide, and that's a sample version that we came up with. And we're actually already feeling this all over the world in the test trials this summer, where people are going out there, whether they're missionaries or just regular old people, carrying around, putting them in their pocket, and basically bringing the gospel and other tools and resources to people, because oftentimes resources is what people don't have. I actually just yesterday spoke to a pastor who works in church plants in North Africa. And when I showed him this box, he said, this is going to open up so many opportunities for the church plants that we work with in North Africa. He said, last time that we were in North Africa, people were begging us for resources, but we didn't really have a really good delivery system for them. They had mobile phones and internet, but it wasn't always reliable, and they didn't have the ability to download vast amounts of information. Well, for a little over $30, we can send this to them, and we can fill with information. So this pastor this coming summer is taking 6 of these to North Africa to fill with material in the appropriate local language of the people, so they instantly can have access to people. We've done a lot of part of this spring. What we've been doing is formally testing this and putting it through its paces. This thing can actually stream video to 30 devices simultaneously. And if it's just doing text and things are less bandwidth intensive, it can probably do more, which is great, because literally you could put these in a refugee camp and 30 people could connect to it and download the information they want right to their mobile phones. It's pretty idiot-proof, and it allows us to basically quickly disseminate data like nothing else.
One minute.
Yep, it also can be made secure, and we're working on more features to come. The second thing that we're working on, if you go to the next page, is a charging station, because many of the churches and partners that we're working at, people have the mobile phones, but charging is sometimes an issue. And so we want to make a sustainable, easily to be created charging station that people can charge their mobile phones at. You can see from the picture, it's just we make our charging station from a typical table, an umbrella that can be found pretty much anywhere in the world. And then if you look at the other picture, we have a nice 10-port charging station, so people can sit around the charging station, get their mobile phone charged in a way that's safe, it's easily available, it's natural, and it can be deployed easily. And then we're also working on a solar-powered version. So this is kind of like our plug-in version, and we have a solar version to come. And also the Wi-Fi box can easily be incorporated to this. So while you're sitting, you can have access to content and information.
Awesome, bro. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. So just keeping it moving, I'm going to ask Brandon to go ahead and get on here. And Brandon is the COO of Renew Outreach, and so he'll share some of what they've been up to.
Yeah, thanks very much, Keith. Yeah, I'll just second what David there was saying about the opportunity here to get this type of digital media. I mean, it's just completely unprecedented. And you're seeing right there a little picture of our Wi-Fi box, which we call the Lightstream. And this is a different, very similar type of device, but this thing I think that distinguishes ours is just, it's a little bit more robust, has quite a few more features, allows you to do about double the number of users, and is just meant to have more of a long-term, more permanent type of presence, although both of these are good options for doing this type of media distribution. We also do a lot of these. We send out hundreds of these systems, and so we're well set up to meet the needs for many people that want to use them. But I just wanted to encourage y'all with a quick story that applies to any of this digital media and doing digital media distribution in this context. This is actually a picture of a good friend of ours who was in Holland, and he had set up one of these light streams, and the refugees were getting access to it and were connecting to it. And as he was going around to some of the different places that had been set up by churches, like little coffee shops and resource booths and things like that, he was interacting with different refugees, and he ended up talking to a couple of guys. And one guy is saying, "Hey, there's this media here that I got on my phone. Do you know what it is?" And the guy says, "Oh yeah, well that's the audio Bible right there. Where did you get that?" And he turns to his friend and he says, "Well, I got it from my friend." And so then my friend says to the friend, he says, "Well, where did you get it?" He said, "Well, there was this Wi-Fi hotspot, and I got on there and I was able to download it, and I was interested in it." And that really allowed them to start a gospel-based conversation. And the key that I noticed there is the ability of this media to go from phone to phone. And so if we have an opportunity right now to seed, whether it's the light stream or the Wi-Fi box or the Bible box or any type of device, or we have the ability to seed the Word of God in the heart language of these refugees. And we don't know where it will go. Once it gets on one person's phone, they're going to share it with another person, share it with another person, share it with another person. And so this viral capacity is just a beautiful opportunity I think the Lord has opened up for us to use. So you can go to the next slide, Keith, which that's just another picture of them using the light stream and accessing that there in Holland. And go ahead and forward on to the next slide as well. This is similar. Again, David and I are doing some pretty similar stuff, them there at Crew and us over here at Renew. And ours, I guess the only distinguishing factor is ours are just a little bit bigger, a little bit more powerful. And this is the same as their charging solution. We put together a charging solution called the Hope Rope. And this allows you to charge 64 cell phones, runs off of a car battery, which is easily accessible. And so that's something that we put together, and we've got quite a few of those over there. And that's a resource that that we can make available to you all. And I'm hopeful that somebody, whether it's the guys over at Crew or I know Kirk at OM, if you guys can make available the Bible box or that Wi-Fi box, it'd be great to let people know how to get that. Because the common question I have is when people ask about that is, well, yeah, it only costs $30 to buy the device, but then you have to program it. And how do I do that? And that's a hurdle and an obstacle. And I haven't been aware yet of someone who is just wholesale just producing these and giving them out. And so if you guys have a resource for that, I think people would be interested in that. But that's what we do at Renew. We can just go ahead and produce these things and send them out. So you can go to my last slide. That's pretty much all I had to show to you all. These last resources here are a couple of options. We can produce micro SD cards with content loaded on them for the price you see there on that slide. Or if you want to get blank micro SD cards in bulk, we've been working in this type of product development for many years. And the very best and cheapest reliable SD card source is what I have right there, Wilhelm Stoker. And of course, for any of the stuff that I've mentioned, our equipment, just send us an email or go to our website. And thanks for all you're doing to reach the refugees.
Awesome, bro. Okay, Benjamin, I guess we'll go to you to facilitate Q&A.
All right. Yeah, there have been some good questions, a lot of good conversation. A couple of things have come up about, and like I said, this I think is something that will have to be followed up on by you, and then maybe we can get that answer and have that put into the follow-up notes. But there's a number of people that are wondering if there's a way that we can get, or that they can rather get the Love Europe app made available for other boxes. So I know you're partnering with Crew and they have it available on theirs. Is there a way that other people can get theirs? And OM has some boxes that they've got in play. And so that's something you may have an answer for it now. If you do, great. If you don't, that's a great question for follow-up in the future here.
Hey, Keith, can you stop sharing your screen just so we can go to gallery view and everybody can see everybody for the Q&A? There we go. Yeah, and again, if you go to your right-hand corner of your screen, you have different views. Gallery view lets you see my screen is filled with faces. I love it. I'm sorry, Benjamin, go.
So we'll leave that one for the time being, as there is another one that has come up just recently that I think is really worth discussing. R. Wismer asks, is there a way, or has there been any conversation about how to do follow-up with people after these data sources, after the data has been distributed through these boxes? Is there any plan or system in place to handle follow-up? So that would be a question for presenters. Is there a way to do that? Obviously, I would imagine with the app there is some way, because they are connected and it is an app and they've got some way to connect. But But for those doing distribution through the boxes, is there any plan in place?
Yes, for Crew's Wi-Fi content box, what I share is mostly a version 1.0, but the version, you could say 2.0, that we're working on right now to be released over the summer would allow for growth spaces and follow-up for people in an easy format. So a refugee could leave their info, they could give us, their contact information, and then the appropriate person could follow it up, from there. As well as we're working on for loading the software, because this is a generic box, we're working on the ability to have automated scripts. So really anyone could, turn this into a Wi-Fi content box and make it that easy.
So, okay, that's great. Thank you, David. So that's basically then left up to the visitor of the box to leave their information. There's no way for us to be preemptive in gathering that automatically and then following up with them.
There could be some ways, that's what we want to collaborate with is, what are some of the best ways to, get information in an appropriate and sensitive way.
Great, good.
Yeah, and we're actually working on the same thing. We have several projects that are in the works to do exactly that,
Okay.
and so very similar.
Great. All right, there was another Jared asked, does anyone have a good idea on the level of access to Wi-Fi internet connections? Jared, if you'd like to unmute and maybe rephrase that, re-ask that question, you are welcome to do that if I did not.
Yeah, thanks. So specifically, I'm just kind of curious, how much access Syrians in Europe have to actual internet. Is it, I'm guessing they don't have a bunch of data on their plans, but do they have access to Wi-Fi? What's the level that they have there?
Okay. And I do not know.
The one part I can answer on that is that I know a lot of tech NGOs are trying to put up Wi-Fi access for those, from the point they arrive at the beach in Greece to all of the refugee camps, and it's in process, but they're doing their best to do that. And they're also trying to have it in a way where it directs them to a refugee helps website on the very first get-go. So I know that for Greece. I'm less aware of what's going on in the rest of Europe.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, just do a couple more here. Lisa, this is one directed to you. Maybe you can answer this one. Do you know if there is a communication with the North American Refugee Highway Network to make a Love Europe adaptation for North America?
I have no idea. This is basically the Dutch team is responsible for connecting with other countries that want to join or with all the networking. We're really just filling the app with German content. So
Good.
They would know. I don't. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Do we have, Keith, do we have their contact information so that we could maybe pass that along and open up those
we do have that contact information. I don't know if I should put it on a general chat or not, but
right.
Yeah, if we can keep the name of the individual that was asking, I can certainly try to get that to them.
Yeah, go ahead and let's see. That was actually Brian. Brian was asking that one, so we know him. Our very own Brian James. Okay, let me just see. Had any more?
Could we get the person to contact in Holland?
That's what we were just saying. We're not sure if we should put that information up here just for.
Let me see if I've got a general contact point for Jesus.net in Holland, and I can give that out at least. So I will try to look that up as we're on the line here.
Well, that would be Jan, wouldn't it?
I believe it's Jan Willem.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's Jan. I mean, we could probably put his email in there. I think he'd be okay with that.
Okay, it was Wouter that was the gentleman who was actually.
Oh yeah, then you would know more. I just know Jan. Okay.
Wouter is sort of organizing it all, I think.
I see. All right.
Well, what we can do is we'll make sure we put that from the chat into our notes and have that in the follow-up, the correct contact in the follow-up. All right.
A couple more minutes. We do have a few more minutes for questions, Benjamin.
A few more minutes, yep. where do we have access? Tony's asking where we can have access to the presentation. There will be do we have a link already for that, Clyde? Or
No, hopefully we'll send it out within 24 hours to the email for everyone who registered with the link for all these summary, you know, the PowerPoint, the recordings, and as many links as we can provide.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's see. Sorry, just trying to sort through the chat.
I'm just seeing this question about children's resources. Yeah. I would recommend that you contact One Hope. They have some materials out there, but I think it requires some training. They're asking for people to get training in its use, so that would be one place to go.
And I think I saw Jen here. So Jen, if you're here from One Hope, maybe you can put your, I don't know, something in their contact information or the chat box about that.
I was actually the one that submitted that question. Having been to a few of these conferences, I'm realizing there's a gap in kind of providing some conversation that targets an agenda for children and youth. And so I'm looking to connect with anyone that is, you know, doing that and promoting children and youth resources. We have some strategies that we're working on currently, but yeah, I would love to connect, and I'll put my information there. Thank you.
Anybody else want to chime in? We have another minute or so.
Yeah.
I did just mention El Hayat television has some as well, in Arabic, mostly. For children.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, and you see anything else in there, Benjamin?
I do not think so. I was tracking most of it, and there were certain questions that got answered during conversations. I think those were covered.
All right.
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you to Keith and presenters for your time and all of your research and your very hard work on this stuff. This is fantastic.
So Clyde, should I go ahead and share that screen again just for follow-up and networking?
Yes, go ahead. Do that again, please.
Okay.
So yeah, we're going to try this, is to see if we can't drive traffic and conversation to a Slack channel. Many of you, and I think Steve Bauman was on here, I found it very useful when we were at EMDC a month or so ago. You may already have a Slack login. You just have to, I think, log into this one. And then we have a Refugee channel in there. You could create a channel if you like children's resources. And so that would be another place to carry on ongoing conversation after this. If you have any thoughts, questions, resources, it's pretty useful. And we're going to see if we can't, you know, let that conversation go there.
Great. Okay.
And on that note, really quickly, here is, this is, if you guys haven't seen it, you'll log in, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you get little channels over here. This is the MMF one. And so, like, for example, we've created #refugees. You could just type in a comment here, you know, a link. And anyway, anybody that's there has access to that. So anyway, enough said.
Great. Okay. Well, we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up unless there was anything else was pressing. I think that we got it all. So, Clyde, would you, well, before we close out in prayer, just thank you very much for all of you who have participated and took the time to listen in. I know there was people tuning in from late and early, and doing this over lunch. So thank you very much for that. And we appreciate it. Hope that it was helpful, and continue to keep an eye open for the link that we'll be sending out with these resources. And we do hope that those of you, there's been a lot of sharing of contact information. I hope that you can grab those off of the chat and make those contacts with people that you have interest in connecting with outside of this. But I think there was is the list of registrants for this, Clyde, is that available post? So I know some people, you have the ability to put your name down and have it shown.
I'm sorry, you asked that question again. I'm not sure what you're asking.
When you register, you can say, yeah, I've registered for this, and then there's a little bit of contact information there. Is there a way that people can get to that after?
No. It's just a name. So yeah, gosh, if you, oh man.
Well, we're not going to open that one up. That was just,
I think if you really, gosh, if there's somebody that, the best thing is maybe you could contact Carissa or me. Could you provide an email for somebody here that I didn't get? But I would say try the Slack channel first, and we want you to connect. So that is one of our ulterior motives.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, on that note, Clyde, would you close us out in a word of prayer?
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to do a few announcements, and then we're going to stay for who wishes to stay to have a little extended networking time. This might be a chance to say, hey, I have a question for, I'd like to meet others, and maybe we'll just let a few other people do what we did at the beginning, 20 seconds on who they are. But let me pray. Lord, we worship you. You're the King. I thank you for all of the presenters and all the people that participated. I know their hearts are for you. I thank you for Keith's word on the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. I do pray that would inspire and motivate us daily, that for the refugees that are around us, that we may not even be aware of, help us to have eyes to see, but help us to be intentional to serve these people who have been utterly displaced and disrupted. We pray for grace and mercy and peace and salvation for them, we ask, and even peace in the Middle East, in Jesus' name. Thanks to all. A few quick announcements. So I mentioned at the beginning, there is a link at the top of the chat box. I guess I could put it at the bottom of the chat box. We'll send it out in the follow-up email. We'd love to get your evaluation on this little our little webinar, what you liked, what you could improve for future. And so if you could do that for us, we'll try to get the links out for the summary within 24 hours. You'll get an email from Carissa on that. Our next and final webinar in this 3-part series is on just resources for mobile ministry. Last month we did the one on how do you equip your short-term mission team with mobile resources. Keith made reference to the post that gives all those resources. This will be up on mobileministryforum.org within 24 hours or so. The next webinar will be on June the 22nd. That's a Wednesday. It's about 4 weeks from today. And again, it's just the same time. We'll have to send out a separate link so that you can register for that on resources for mobile ministry. We also have the next cycle of our course that we're offering. It begins on June the 7th. You can again go to mobileministryforum.org or just mobmin.org. It all goes to the same place, and read about the course. There's a tab there that can tell you about that. It's a 4-week course. You get to interact with a bunch of other people from around the world on how do you use mobile in your ministry context. I think that's all by the way of announcements. Anybody else have any quick announcements? If you have, again, before you leave, if you have like Carol does or links that you want us to include in the summary post, put those in the chat box, and we will do our best to make sure that your resource is included in that summary post for this session. And I think that's it. And yeah, anybody who wishes to stay will probably stay on for another 8 or 10, maybe 12 minutes, and just kind of do meet and greet for the people that haven't said, hey, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. I know I'll stay on, and Benjamin and Keith and others. So, but we are officially over. If you need to or just log out, that's great. If you want to stay, we're going to try to pick on people that haven't told us who they are just yet. So thank you very much. And Benjamin, do you mind picking on names that haven't been picked on? And by the way, you set a record. This was our personal record. We've never had 50 people in a webinar, like 50 individuals, not to mention the 4 in the room there at GNPI. So you maxed out the platform. So blessings to each of you. So Benjamin, do you mind picking on people that haven't been picked on yet?
Actually, I'm wrapping up notes here, so why don't you pick on people?
All right, I can't remember who's been picked on. I don't think.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yes, sir. You go.
About the Slack channel, it says an admin needs to invite them to the Slack channel.
Ooh, bummer. Did we? I don't know much about Slack. Is that easily changed? How does that work? Somebody coach us.
I think we can just go ahead and send out invitations to everybody that's on this call. So that's not a problem.
Okay, Chris, if you could make a note of that. Yeah, we'll have to include that in the summary. We'll just have to do that. Yes, thank you. Sorry. Our bad. Let me go. Yeah, no, we got GNPI. How about NM? NM, I don't know who you are. Can you unmute and tell us 20 seconds who you are and where you are, and tell us just something about you.
That's my friend Nate.
How's it going, gang? My name is Nate Mathis. I'm in Germany working with refugees, have been for about the past 6 months, and working with a team called LM2 here. And we have sort of a multifunctional team that are doing all sorts of things. One thing that's good to get out there, I just wanted to add, as part of the narrative, is that we're coming across a lot of refugees from the Middle East who are saying it's Christians who are helping them every step along the journey. So by the time they get to Europe, they're very interested in hearing more about this Jesus.
Wow. Amen. And bless the Lord for his people. That's a good word. Lauren, can you unmute? If I don't think you've spoken, just tell us something about you.
I work with Samaritan's Purse, and we're working with UNHCR with the refugees directly in the camp, and then also setting up meeting places that are outside of the camps. And that's kind of what we're transitioning to, because the nature of the response is changing because of people getting stuck. So we see about 500 people a day at these physical locations. They get free Wi-Fi, refreshments, and there's people there, Arabic and Farsi speakers, who can answer questions and pray with them. And we will also be connecting them online, if they leave us their information, with people who will continue the conversation with them via email and phone and such as that. And then also be able to plant them in churches, the ones that do, get serious, and then wherever they end up, help them find a church home. So it's kind of a joint effort between Samaritan's Purse, BGEA, Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, and the more covert parts of the Christian Broadcasting Network's ministry. So it's been pretty cool.
If you have a link or something that you could put in the chat box that we could include, that'd be great. I'm sure you guys have resources. Anne Grinnell, can you tell us something about you? Just unmute. There you go.
I can. Thank you. Anne Grinnell. Many years as an international worker in Indonesia, the largest Muslim country in the world, worked with youth, and so love technology. And I'm just new to this outreach, but now in retirement, I've been asked to head up a refugee and immigrant outreach from our local church in a city about 30 miles north of Seattle, Washington. And we're so excited about what